Hey, what's up, fellas? I'm Usher's Female Fan. Steve-alicious here, and a somber video today. This is the last time I'll be doing a video on the BlackBerry Passport with the Passport relatively fully functional. I understand we've experienced some step downs in BlackBerry services over the past several years, but now we're about to fall off a cliff. We'll talk about it. Also, how I think there's light at the end of the tunnel for those of us who enjoy unique mobile form factors that don't necessarily include onward mobility and the Unihertz Titan. All of that today on this edition of Steve-alicious Tech. And we're back as always. Thank you so much to all the new subscribers, up over 6,100 as of the taping of this video. If you're beloved all the tech, both new and older, go ahead and give that subscribe button a tussle. It certainly means a lot to me. And even more reason to do so, we will be live streaming the BlackBerry End of Life on the night of January 3rd till however long that goes, to see what happens when the servers go down and we celebrate the life that was BlackBerry. I want to talk about a couple things really quick. When I talked about the BlackBerry End of Life and the information I got from BlackBerry themselves by calling BlackBerry customer service, which you still can do, even on your Passport, they were charging this ridiculous fee where they'd have it where if you had a problem with your Passport, even though they had ended support, sort of technical support, you could pay $35 and they'd sit there and answer a question that you had on your BlackBerry Passport, your BlackBerry 10 device. Thankfully, they didn't charge me that. They just gave me the information. They said that really nothing is going to be going on after the servers went down. Now, Crackberry forums took offense to that. They got all upset. Oh, no, it's going to be nothing. You basically just set up your device, you wipe your device, you set it back up without a BlackBerry ID, and you go about your business as usual. And listen, you might be able to do that. Maybe you can get it to where you can work with calls and texts and other stuff. Personally, I think it's going to be a little bit rougher than that. I think it's going to be an experience you don't want to really have after the servers go down. It's not going to be the BlackBerry you know, that's for sure. It's not going to be the one you know and love. It's just going to become kind of a dumb phone that you're kind of hoping that you could get things going on. And that really only works outside of the United States. If you're inside the United States, don't forget you have two civilization-ending asteroids coming for your BlackBerry. The first one is the BlackBerry End of Life, just BlackBerry shutting down the BlackBerry services servers. The second is the carriers not allowing these devices on the network after the beginning of next year. So even if you send Bruce Willis up and you knock one of the asteroids out of the way, the second one is still coming to destroy Planet BlackBerry. And that's going to be very hard. The chances of getting one of them out of the way is extremely difficult. And two, the only one you have a shot on is the 3G one in the United States because they keep pushing that deadline. But I think that's coming to an end. And the BlackBerry one, they wouldn't have waited until now, certainly now during the holidays and then the beginning of the year, to announce that they were extending BlackBerry services. That seems like something they would have done months ago. So I really think that even if you can somehow rig your BlackBerry and you can make calls and you're outside the United States and 3G and non-voice over LTE devices are supported, even though this sort of has, I don't even know what the situation is with that. Because this, I think, can support 4G LTE, voice over LTE, but it doesn't matter. It's not going to be the experience that you want to have with your BlackBerry that you know and you enjoy and what made this a BlackBerry. And that to me is sad, because when I think about this, and now we have some of the other devices, and that's why when I say there's hope, I don't mean the onward mobility coming device, hopefully, or the Unihertz devices that are already out. I mean future designs, and we'll talk about that. But what makes me sad, having used the Unihertz Titan Pocket, is that what I'll miss is the physical keyboard is one thing. You could take an Android device and you can slap a physical keyboard on it and say, hey, listen, we're giving you guys something that you want. This is something that keyboard people want. Here's a keyboard on an Android device. And even the Key 1 and 2 devices fell into this a little bit. I will miss the fact that this BB10, BB7, of course, all the way back, was built from the ground up to incorporate and support the keyboard. And it isn't until you don't have that, and it isn't until you use an operating system that wasn't designed that way, that you really begin to miss it. Because as well of fantastic as a job as they did on the Titan Pocket, and they really did, solid keyboard, they did make some adjustments to the Android software to make it a little bit more friendly to keyboard and that aspect ratio and the tiny screen and all the rest of it, it still doesn't hold a candle to BB10. And you can't expect it to. Android wasn't built that way. It wasn't meant for that. BlackBerry OS was. And just from look at the 1:1 aspect ratio on the screen. It uses all of it. When you had a situation, I think it was roughly 1:1 on the Titan Pocket. It may actually be 1:1 a square. Android was not optimized for that. So you have a lot of border area. Twitter's almost unusable. It makes it incredibly difficult to function on a screen that has a non-standard aspect ratio. Whereas BlackBerry scaled beautifully to all that. Uses all the display, uses all the screen, everything, all the apps were perfectly usable on your Passport. And that's really what made the experience and made it special. To me, still the best email machine out there. If there's a way to make it still work on Wi-Fi without your BlackBerry ID and mail isn't completely unreliable, which is one thing that they claim, then I'll definitely still be using it. But you're just going to miss this overall package and the premium feel and how solid it was, and a 3,450 milliamp hour battery on a device from 2014, 2015 was ridiculous. Ridiculous. Long gone are the days where you could just pick up a device like this, not charge it for a couple of days, and not have to worry about it, and still get flagship performance. It still had a Snapdragon 800 in it, so you're still getting 3 gigs of RAM. You're still getting plenty of the specs that you would have gotten back in the day with a flagship phone, but massive battery life. Incredible. And that was the hallmark of BlackBerry devices, and they were able to bring that to the flagship experience as soon as 2015. And it's just holding in the hand, the overall, I know there's a lot of BlackBerry people, there's a debate between the 3-row and the 4-row keyboard. I like my 4-row keyboard. I've been using my Classic a lot. It's been coming with me. The portable form factor is fantastic. Clip it on a little belt clip to get your 90s styling going. 90s nostalgia stuff is back. Why not bring the belt clips back with the smaller phones? But I just love the extra space that the 3-row gives me. And then I have the context row that could give me whatever I want. And I've adjusted to that. And I really do type faster on my 3-row than my 4-row. Capacitive keyboard, where you can use it as a scroll and a mouse for Twitter and all that stuff. Just all the innovation that they put into this device. And it just wasn't accepted at the time. It was just a little too different, a little bit ahead of its time. But when you actually view content on a display that's like this, that's the 1:1, super wide display, it's tough to go back. And when this was released, at least screens were a little bit wider. We were dealing with 16:9. We were dealing with that kind of aspect ratio, a little bit boxier, a little squarer, with at least wider displays so you could see more of the content. But then we went to 18:9. I was like, okay, well, I guess that's okay. Then we went by 19:9, then 20:9, then 21:9. And you got all these thinner devices that I understand are getting taller. But taller doesn't help you when you're getting thinner, when you want to read an entire email or see the text of an entire PDF without having to go back and slide to side, slide and go up and down. You get the entire thing. And because of the Quad HD resolution on here, 1440p, right? It might even be better. That's 2K, 1440p. LCD, but still beautiful, sharp contrast. But because of that higher resolution on this display, even though it would shrink down the text a little bit, it was still perfectly readable when you had a PDF or an email that was using the 1:1 aspect ratio. So overall, just a fantastic, fantastic experience that I'm going to miss. It really is going to be tough. Now, I like the squared off one. I didn't like the AT&T rounded one. I do like the original. I think it keeps that unique form factor all to itself. The rounded one seemed a little bit kind of like the other BlackBerries at the time, the design language. So for the future, BlackBerry's going to come out with eventually. I personally think it's going to be a Key 3-esque device, which I don't think keeps to the spirit of what these devices were. That's an Android device that they slap a keyboard on the bottom of. I'll use it. I'll probably like it, but it's not anything like this. It's not the same experience. What gave me hope was two devices. One that I didn't like and one that's just come out. The Surface Duo, which was a disaster in its own right. Microsoft had enough problems with that. With the 4:3 aspect ratio, at least opened the door that for business, for email, for productivity, different aspect ratios could work. So you could have a 4:3, a wider ratio that's a little squatter that you could have for business, for apps, and that kind of encouraged me a little bit. Then you have something like the Oppo End, which is the new foldable from Oppo. I don't even know if it's going to be available in the United States, but that's a smaller, compact form factor that then goes out to a wider aspect ratio. And if we can kind of get back to having unique form factors, like the Duo, like the Oppo End, and then having wider screened form factors becoming the norm again, and at least accepted for developers so they could develop their apps to be utilized and to be optimized for other display aspect ratios, I think we got hope. It's not going to be a BlackBerry. It's not going to have the soul of a BlackBerry, but maybe it'll keep your attention a little bit longer than just the generic glass slabs that keep coming out over and over and over again. And I know this is tough at the end for a lot of people because it's more than just the functionality and the productivity and the accuracy of the keyboard and the enjoyment of clicking on a physical keyboard. I've said it before, these devices don't necessarily have a soul, but they are vessels that we pour our souls into. And BlackBerry in particular, because of how it captured a very specific period of time and how that may mark time in your life, whether it was just you were in school or whatever, and that's how you communicated with your friends. You were just starting your career, and that's how you handled business, and you were one of those crackberry people, and you just loved it, and you never separated from it, or you were just ending your career and just learning it, just enjoying something like this, and the connectivity. And to me, the BlackBerry, even though it represented an era in which there always contact, always work, because you could always get email, you could always get things done, it still was disconnected enough in comparison to the internet and the devices of today that it felt like if you left it somewhere that you were disconnected. Whereas now I don't think that's possible. I don't think you could leave your phone somewhere, leave your phone at home and be away from everything. I think now it's pretty much expected that you always have a device on you. You're always connected. So that really isn't a way to disconnect anymore. It's certainly a bridge with the physical keyboard from the past to the present as far as technology is concerned. I think that's a lot of the nostalgia. Unfortunately, it's sad. It's sad to see it go. We're gonna try what we can. We're gonna try to see what happens afterwards, if there's any usability for it. But I don't think, you got to be honest with yourselves now. I think it's time to move on. I don't think it's going to be that experience that you know and love. But join me on the 3rd. We'll celebrate the life that was BlackBerry. You could share all your stories of how you got into BlackBerry, what you used it for, and all the rest. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-alicious day.